I find that certain compressors out of my collection do well on certain instruments. So I have some go-to compressors that I use for vocals. Blue 1176s, black 1176s, and even more recently the 176, which is a reissue of the Retro 176, which is a new version of the actual original Yuri 176. So that's with the vocals. Now the LA3As, which is yet another flavor, turned out to be my real go-to limiter for guitars, acoustic instruments, certain keyboards, and tended to be always used in the chain. The more newer 1176s, the black, even the silver-faced, tended to go into the drum department and help me there for the drum sounds. So why don't we focus now on some elements in the track. Let's go right to the drums, and we could start right in probably verse 2 is where a good section of the drums, and kind of look at just soloing the drums and hearing what they sound like. We're using black 1176 plugins on the drums. Those I feel work the best for the drums. So let's take a gander at verse 2 with the plugins we've selected. Now that you see what we're doing there, let's just try that same stretch and bypass. You see that what it does, you get some sustain off the kick, the snare has a little bit of a ring quality to it, and when it's in the track, it really feels like you're in there with the drum kit. Now what I notice right away while it's playing is that I hear too much point, and I hear too much of what I call the digital thing, which is the plugins kind of round off and make it feel a bit more analog, a bit real. I hear the snare like a little bit more ring, and I hear the kick a little bit more sustain. So let's look at another part of the drum kit, since we're hearing the whole drum kit together. A couple of other places that I'll use it is the overheads. So let's just look right at the overhead tracks, and we'll kind of play them during that section, and they're using the black 1176 plugins, and show you what the difference is between regular, with the plugin on, and without. Because it has the plugins on, you hear some sustain, you hear a little bit more ring right away. So if we back up that same little section and go on bypass, let's see what happens. What you do is you lose a little bit of level, maybe because that's just a level thing, but what you notice is that there's this character and this ring that normally comes with the drums that kind of goes away by not having the 1176s in. When you start combining all the drums getting a little taste of the black 1176, it goes from just a couple of mics set into a room to almost all the way to John Bonham. And the feeling of the room being alive and the drums being alive and really poking out in the mix, which to me is very important. The vocals, the drums, two very major important parts of your mix. The things that really set apart the presence of the mix. And the use of these plugins in the mix is really what's helping us. So let's see what happens when we take a mono room, which is just one mic set out in the middle of the room for the drums, and see what happens when you put a little abuse on it. Now we can take the input and drive that even harder, and this is with the all buttons in. Let's see how she takes a bit more brutality. All of a sudden it got explosive. So start that section one more time with that all buttons in. You hear the distance and the size and how long the snare drum gets, and you're like, wow, I really like that. How can I get that all the time? Well, the great thing is you can get that by having the plug-in and by using the all buttons in, which gives it kind of a different character. Different, more aggressive thing, kind of something you did on the old limiters, but by using the plug-in, you'll get that the same every time you go for it, where if I go and put all 4 buttons in, I don't know what I'm gonna get. I might get an explosion sometimes with the old gear. So let's just hear that mono room without anything on it and see what really it sounds like. So like with the other room, it's pretty just, uncompressed, pretty straight ahead, and maybe a little bit unexciting. But when you put all buttons in again, let's hear that. That gives you a taste of kind of what we do at the drums with the black 1176s.